In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an adjustable step stool / tower for that little helper in your kitchen. Hey everyone, my name is Tim Tugnacci and welcome back to another episode of Casual Builds, the channel focused on bringing you beginner DIY and woodworking content. So I already made one of these kitchen helpers for my daughter about 2 months ago and she absolutely loves it. So a friend of mine reached out not too long ago and asked if I could make another one for his son. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to make a video and show you guys how I construct these in case you wanted to make something similar for your house. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that I do have plans available on my website for this project. I will leave a link down below in the video description, so be sure to go check those out. So I'm going to be using a template for the 2 side pieces, and I actually cut these out on my CNC. This is 1/2 inch MDF that I had to cut in 2 different pieces because my CNC wasn't big enough. And I actually took these 2 pieces, transferred them over to a 3/4 inch piece of plywood to make one singular template. So this is what we're gonna use today. So I'm gonna grab some plywood, we're gonna break it down to some rough dimensions here. We're gonna put this on top of the plywood, we're gonna trace it out, we're gonna use a jigsaw, and then we're going to slap this on top of that piece, grab our flush trim bit on our router, and then make each piece identical. So let's go ahead and start with that. So I have the 2 side pieces cut to their rough size, and I noticed that the top veneer of this plywood is super thin. So I'm gonna use some blue tape just to help to reduce some of that tear out when I use my jigsaw, just to get it a little bit closer to the line. So I tried to make this plywood work, I really did, but as I was pulling up the tape after I cut everything out with the jigsaw, it was just ripping that top veneer right off. And it's not gonna work. I'm making this for a friend and I want it to look good and I'm not painting it. So what I ended up doing is I went back to the store and I picked up more plywood that is the same type as the template that I was using before. And what I'm gonna end up doing is just using the template for one of the side pieces because I'm kind of in a time crunch and I just want to get this done. So the next step is to take this, attach it to the other side piece, use my flush trim bit on my router, and just get the 2 pieces identical. And then afterwards, I'll probably round over all of the sharp edges, and then we'll move on to the next step from there. So now it's time to cut some dados. We're gonna make 4 in total, 1 for the bottom step and then 3 for the top. And those will be adjustable. They will be stop dados, so we're not gonna go all the way through. And in order to make sure that the dados are perfectly equal on both of the side pieces, I created this quick little jig. And basically how it works is I'll push it up against the bottom of the side piece. I will clamp it down. And then when I run my router against the top, it puts the first dado exactly where we need it. And then I created 2 other spacer blocks at 4 inches wide that I'll put on top. And then once we're all done with the dados, we're gonna work on cutting out the stretchers, the top and the bottom steps. We're gonna sand everything down and then move on to assembly. What are you doing in my cabinet? So I just wrapped up sanding, and you might have noticed that I didn't actually cut the top or the bottom steps just yet. And the reason for that is that I want to get this thing assembled first so then I can measure where those dados are to ensure that when I do make those cuts, it fits nice and snug in the dado slots. For the joinery, I'm going to be using pocket holes. So I'm going to drill some pocket holes in the stretchers. I'm going to assemble everything, and then we'll move on to cutting the top and the bottom steps. So this is the part of the assembly process that I struggled with last time I made this. So I put the stretchers on one of the sides and attached them with pocket screws. But in order to make sure that the other side is a perfect 90 degrees and it's all angled right, I'm gonna be using this piece of plywood just to set it in place on top so it's not attached yet. And then when that is done and I like how it's sitting, I'm gonna trace all of the stretchers with a pencil so then when I flip it over and attach them, I know where they need to be. So hopefully this tip helps you if you decide to make one of these for yourself as well. So off camera, I sanded everything up to 220 grit. Also, highly recommend buying one of these sanding sponges. It came in super handy, getting all those corners and edges, and extremely helpful. So everything is ready and prepped for finishing. And what I'm gonna be using is some of this spar urethane that I picked up. I had a can or two left over from a cornhole set that I made recently. So I'm gonna toss that in my spray gun, and I'm gonna do 3 total coats, and then I'm gonna use this sanding sponge, 220 grit in between each coat, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. So let's get to it.